My goal for the Successful Mind podcast is continually to provide you with teachings and information that will help you in your life and business. For this reason, this year, I'm going to be adding a very special show called What's the Truth? Each month, I'm going to select one person to be a guest on my show who would like help seeing what's really going on with a problem or challenge that they've been struggling with. My goal is to help this person uncover a hidden blind spot that's keeping them from the success that they desire. If you'd like to be considered as a guest on this show, please text TRUTH to 469-447-7775. Again, text TRUTH to 469-447-7775.
Once you have a brand, a strong brand, I think you have lock in people's minds, David. I mean, again, look at any of the brands we love. When people raise their prices, people who have a strong brand affinity for you, they're not going to run away so fast. You have a competitor that says, hey, come over here for whatever reason, they're not going to run away so fast. So I think that's the reason for the business owners, for the entrepreneurs who listen to you, your community, to try to have a strong brand as they can.
Successful people learn how to make their mind work for them. I'm David Neagle, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast.
Hey everybody, David Neagle from the Successful Mind Podcast. Today my guest is the amazing Ramon Ray. He's the founder of the Smart Hustle Media and smallbiztechnology.com and producer of the annual Smart Hustle Growth Conference in New York City. He is a sought-after global keynote speaker and event host, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. His latest book is Celebrity CEO: How Entrepreneurs Can Thrive by Building Community and a Strong Personal Brand. He's been to the White House to speak to the president's staff, testified to Congress, graduated from the FBI Citizens Academy, which we're going to have to ask him about that for sure, and worked at the United Nations. And if that wasn't enough, he loves burnt pancakes and bacon on the weekends. Ramon, how you doing?
David, I feel great, man. I'm almost to your level. It's just you look a bit more handsome than me. So I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. Okay,
and thank you, by the way, for all you do for business owners, man. What you share is just, it's like, as I say, dropping science. It's amazing and powerful. So thank you. I
really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, I got to get this because this has been in my head since I got your bio. What is the FBI Citizens Academy?
Sure. It's fun. It was a fun program I had. Did that a couple years ago. And basically, it's an ambassador program. So the FBI, you apply for it. I don't think they accept everybody. You do have a small background check. And basically, it's a 10-week course in FBI offices. I did the one in New York City, but I think they have it around the country. You know, if you're in Indiana, California, I'm assuming. But in this case, I was in the New York City FBI offices, 10-week course. Okay. And we go there and kind of get an overview of how the FBI operates. You know, there's a guy who was there who was in charge of when they had the anthrax scare some years ago at the UN, kind of the big deal. He briefed us, counterterrorism people who've dealt with mob bosses that we read about back in the day in the newspaper. So that's kind of what it was to get to know the FBI, shake hands. We shot some weapons. It was pretty cool. And I got a big plaque from Robert Mueller. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, that is fun. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. You should try it.
Well, I'm always fascinated by that stuff. I love I've always been fascinated with how they came up with the idea of serial killers and how to identify them and the whole strategy and, everything that they put together to do that. I forget the guy's name now that did the profiling. They created the profiling from it, but I thought it was fascinating from the psychology perspective on how that works. So it was just something that I was interested in. I knew I had to ask you about this.
Indeed, they have a famed place in Quantico. I think that where their headquarters are.
Right. Okay, so let's get into this here a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Smart Hustle Media and what you guys do.
Absolutely. I mean, my career, David, as you've interviewed many entrepreneurs, has been to educate business owners. I started with Small Biz Technology, a blog about technology and small business, sold that, in fact, as we talking today a few months ago. And I was already beginning to expand my coverage, as many of us do, to educate business owners. And so hence Smart Hustle was born, because, David, there's only so much you can say, this cup has an IoT chip in it. Yeah. This cup is 5 gigahertz. I was like, I did it for 15 years or so, the tech guy, right. And I still do tech. So Smart Hustle, really, we have events, we have conferences, online events, content, educating business owners. And our focus really is the story. That's really what I pride myself in doing. Yes. We love telling stories. The entrepreneur that's in the hustle, but as they say on Shark Tank a lot, you have to do more than hustle. And as you teach your community, you have to do it smart. So That's really what we try to do day in and day out through the content we have.
Give the listeners an idea of how you got to this point. What's your story?
Sure. Yeah, it's been, I'm still on the journey, by the way. So
as we all are.
So tomorrow, David, I don't know. Maybe I'll be a diving instructor. We'll see what happens. But the short of it was, and we can dive into it as much as you want if it's helpful for your readers, your listeners especially, is that one big part of my career, as I've said, as you read in my bio, has been at the United Nations. So right out of high school, right out of college, I applied. They had something called the General Assembly, as those in the New York area will know, where the streets are closed, the president comes. Yeah. They cover it in many media for out 1 or 2 days. So I got a job there, just kind of a secretarial type position right out of college. And I worked there for many years. Over 10 years, I was there. But while there, somehow, David, you can probably tell me better than I can tell myself. You're all in about mindset. I got the entrepreneurial bug. I realized I like to create. So I started a one-person, just me, small technology consulting company in Midtown Manhattan. I dissolved that, just stopped doing it. Then I started my blog, Small Biz Technology, which grew, started an event company, David, and today we have Smart Hustle Media. So the point was, I'm skipping some things, that while at the UN is where I started some of the companies and sold some small businesses. And then I got fired or resigned. I always... not sure how it went, because the UN has
who
rules.
Tells the story.
Yes, it depends on who tells it, exactly. But the UN has rules against having your own business. So the short of it is, I had permission to have the business. The permission was taken away and got into some political stuff. So my contract was not renewed. And today, here I am, really being a full-time business owner, as you know, for years, working with brands, educating businesses. And that's what I do today. My forte is really in the marketing side of the world, technology. That's my expertise.
One of the things that I'm personally fascinated by with people in general, but specifically with people of achievement in life, is what was their process to self-awareness around that they had something to offer, that they had something that was above mediocrity to step into. And was there an event? Was there a time? Was there something specific where the light went off, where you said, I've got something more to offer than just mediocrity in my life? And did you struggle with that at all?
Yeah, that's a profound question. And I cry very easily, David. So be careful. It's just me. But unfortunately, that came very recently in my career. And it was manifested by 2 ways. So maybe you can even help me unpack this. I'll get some help from you while we're on the show. But it's just, for years I've been doing, and the world well, main stage speaking, content, and things of this nature. But recently I heard 2 things that people said. Ramon, they want to work with you because they like Ramon, whatever my version of the world is, what I have to offer. These big brands, I don't need to name them, but any of the big global brands that I work with, they can buy ads, David. They don't need me to drive their numbers. They can just spit and get 10 Super Bowl ads 10 times over. But for influencer marketing, they like how I do it. And then the second thing was, David, what I realized, to answer your question directly, was what I provide, and some people don't like it, but it's entertainment. It is business value. It definitely is business sense. As you know, I have the creds and all that, written many books and all that. Right. But when the big brands hire me, some people they hire for authenticity. Some people they hire because they go deep into the topic. For me, it's entertainment. That big brand wants 45 minutes, an hour, or a panel discussion to excite people. And that's the niche of the market that I fit in. Did I answer it? Was that a good answer? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
So there is a lot of talk right now about brand. Gary Vaynerchuk, who is,
and you interviewed recently. I saw that.
I did. Yeah, I did. He's a fantastic guy. He was very, very generous. He talks about how brand is everything, and that if you're not building a brand and you're not clear on your brand, that within a few years you're going to really be in trouble, especially with the way that media is going and with the way social media is going. The ability to step into your own exposure, to be seen, if you will, and really be clear on what your message is. Tell me your thoughts around that. What do you think about brand in and of itself? How important is it to the entrepreneur of today?
David, I think it is almost, but before I say this, leadership and finance are very important as well, but those are not my expertise.
Okay.
But I think it is everything. When I look around at Midtown Manhattan, there's accountants everywhere you can spit. I look about where I was brought up in Brooklyn, New York. You can get jerk chicken and beef patties everywhere. So name what you want. But I think the power of brand, that differentiates us. So I think many of the bigger players pay for that to some way, and it's a different context. But for me, the smaller businesses I talk to and myself, David, it's everything. If you don't have some brand to show people how you're different, let's take my case. You're just a speaker. Speakers are a dime a dozen. I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. There's my brethren, our brethren are everywhere. Right. But how am I different? Another name to bring up, you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin. I was kind of crying to him via email. We're kind of friends, or as it were, professional friends. And I said, I was struggling with some things. And he said, Ramon, what game are you playing? As he's written probably about many times. And I always have to remember, my brand is what Ramon does. And I have to stick in that lane, as it were. So I think it's everything, David. Everything, man.
And that's what he was saying to you by when he asked you, what game are you playing? Like, what lane are you in type thing?
Exactly. Yes, because I was, meaning if I'm trying to be Forbes magazine, right? Which I could be. It's another game. It's another skill. They have a building. They have 100 people, who work for them. If I'm trying to be Gary V, whole other skill. I'm trying to be Tony Robbins, as it were. You follow what I'm getting at. Yeah. So he's like, Ramon, pick not who you're trying to be, but where you're at. And I've become so satisfied, David. I'm who I am. I want to work in a home office. I want to spend time with my family. I love to travel. That's the life I want. That's the lane I'm in. And I've been blessed to succeed in that lane. And I built my brand around it. That's what works for me.
Okay. So when an entrepreneur is watching this, and they're struggling, they don't know what their brand is. They're struggling with it. They hear about it. Is it just the thing that makes us unique, or is there more to it than that?
For sure, there's more. And I think a brand is comprised, and again, there's tons of books on this, David, but I think for me, talking to the business owner who's listening to us today, they're making cups, whatever you want. You can pick any topic you want. I think there's a few things. A, it is important. Why this cup? What makes it different? But I think the other part of it, also what I've done for myself, but for those listening, is how do you make people feel? How do people remember you? What's your differentiating factor? What is your message? There's a lot of cars. What about your car? Customer service is another part of it. How do you treat people? What do people think about when they leave you? So I think brand, it doesn't have to be as fancy and a $1 billion brand like McDonald's. I think even the smallest business, the entrepreneur, the freelancer, that brand is when people smell, when they're around you, what are they smelling? That's how I see brand. And I've tried to hone that for myself. And I think we all need to do that because we're different.
Does it go together with community? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think community is a part of it. I think that when I think of the word community, I think so a few things, and you can help me maybe define how you define community, David. But I think that one part of brand is a look. Things of this nature. But I think that's the minimal part, which many small businesses get caught up in, but that's important. Second part of brand I think you can think of is how I said already, how people feel, what's your ethos. But the third part is once you build a brand, you're kind of raising a flag and saying, here's what we stand for. Here's who we are. We're for purple sheep. Everybody who likes purple sheep, come to us. That's where the community and where things get really powerful. Haven't rock bands taught us that? And I'm not into music, but I listen to some gospel music. But right, it's whatever music is, or teams, sports teams. We're like this.
Right.
That's that third level of community. You're putting your flag in the air and saying, everybody who wants to rally around us because we believe this, here's who we are. And that's where it gets really tight.
It's really fascinating, the speed at which we're changing today, and the speed at which we're moving forward from a technological standpoint, and the business problems that a lot of companies are facing today didn't exist 10 years ago because of technology, because of social media. 20 years ago, it wasn't even in the minds of those people. And I remember, this is probably going back about 18 years, but I was listening to, Dan Kennedy is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So very famous direct marketer, involved in a lot of things most people, he was one of the reasons why Tony Robbins' Personal Power tapes sold 33 million tapes back on the infomercial days on television.
Wow.
But he was in a conference giving a talk, and the idea of brand came up. And I remember him saying, and like I said, this is like 18 years ago now, he said, brand is nothing. It's dead. It's not, it's no longer relevant because it's most people associate it with loyalty. And today loyalty is very fickle. People jump ship and go from one place to another very, very rapidly. Gary's argument is that what brought that back was technology, because technology, with the direction the technology is going in, that if everything's moving toward voice, if everything's moving toward what's being seen, and the individual has the ability to control how they're being seen to some degree, or a large degree actually, that if people don't know you by brand, then anybody else can stand up ahead of you and get what it is that they need, because traditional advertising and marketing doesn't work the way that it used to. Would you say that that's true?
I think the aspect of, I think brand is very important. So whether Dan or Gary or whoever, I think brand is important. And so the answer, I think my answer is yes, I think it's true. And the qualifying answer, I think it is because once you have a brand, a strong brand, I think you have lock in people's minds, David. I mean, again, look at any of the brands we love. When people raise their prices, people who have a strong brand affinity for you, they're not going to run away so fast. You have a competitor that says, hey, come over here for whatever reason, they're not going to run away so fast. So I think that's the reason for the business owners, for the entrepreneurs who listen to you, your community, to try to have a strong brand as they can. Once people are in your funnel and you're serving them, they're going to stay locked, David, as you know. Man, Burt's Bees, my chapstick.
Yeah.
Listen, it happens to go on well, but I'm into it. Auntie Annie's. Those are, of course, big brands. But I think for us smaller businesses, brand is important, David. And there are different ways to do it. Everybody has their journey of how they do it. But I think loyalty, building community, I think this is it's not new any longer, but yes, thanks to technology also, you can scale and do it faster. Dan Kennedy was back in the days of faxing and CDs. It's still important, meaning with his work. But I think today, with the Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, the world we're in, video, look at this call today.
Right.
It's a whole nother playbook.
Yeah, it's completely different. And it requires a different level of thinking, which brings me to the idea of your book, Celebrity CEO. Why that title? Why Celebrity CEO? Tell us about that.
Yeah, listen, I think that everybody wants to, but celebrities, Rihanna, Britney Spears, whoever the famous person of the day, the globally famous, President Obama, whoever it may be, President Trump, whatever. So Celebrities have this. But I'm a firm believer in two principles, that every small business owner can be a celebrity in their small geographic area. Right outside this door, down the block, I think it's Gino's Pizza. People in the area know it, and there's competing food places. They're well known in their local geographic area. It's friendly. It's a mom and dad. They know their customers' names. How are you? Or you can be well known in your professional field. So you could be the best, geriatric or elder care person in North America. So my point with Celebrity CEO is that every business owner, the stronger brand they have, the stronger community have, they can be a celebrity in their core market, and it's important.
So what do they need to identify about themselves to become that celebrity? And I ask this question because I see people in a way kind of blinded by the idea of celebrity, meaning that they look for things that they think are going to make them a celebrity versus them understanding how to make themselves a celebrity.
Wow.
And I think and then they become very disappointed by the fact that their video on Instagram didn't make them a celebrity, or being on somebody's podcast didn't make them a celebrity. What is it that a person needs to adopt from a mindset perspective and a tactical perspective in order to put themselves in the realm of celebrity, even in their own community?
Sure. I think it's two things, but I'd love your input on it, David, as well. You know this very well. I'd love to hear what you think. But for me and what the book's about, and again, I only say this to those listening through the lens of Ramon. I say that, David, because I respect people who say, I don't want to do video, Ramon. I don't want to do social. Neither here nor there. I won't argue about it, right now. Right. But this is my world. So, and this is what's helped me, why I get inbound leads every day. So I think it's two things, David. I think one, you have to have some degree, some pizzazz, something that makes people endear towards you, whether it's your laugh or your smile or your seriousness, something, on this small inch screen, David, right? This is what we're playing to. So I think one, that's it. And point two, what my community has told me, Ramon, we see you everywhere. And I'm not going to say the extent that the average small business has to do it, but in this day of age, as Gary said, with technology, David, you got to have a show. You got to be educating your audience. You got to be sharing content. Attention is fleeting. And I think the one who's going to win that is the one who's educating and can wrap your fans' heads with your brand. I don't think, maybe you can say it better than I have said it, but that's how I see it, David, what my journey's been. How can you come across that engaging factor in some way? And two, I'm an education machine. And I hope that some people click over and buy, which is what every business, right, is doing. Right. Attention to leads to buying. That's the game of business.
So I think about it very similar to you, and the idea of self-awareness, knowing who you are and where you're strong, and also accepting where you're not strong. Like you said about staying in your own lane. What is your message? What are you doing? But to work on yourself to the point where you literally can bring that out in a way that allows you to be seen. So you don't have, like, say, a double binding message where psychologically part of you is going, don't see me, man. I'm embarrassed because I have shame in my background, or I made a mistake, or I'm afraid to fail, or I'm afraid of judgment. And I was actually talking to a bunch of folks today about the idea that when you decide to be an entrepreneur, you're taking a stand for something higher than mediocrity in your life, whether it's you have a product, or you have a service, or you have an ideology, or whatever it is that you want to communicate to the people that you believe can benefit from this. Right. You're sticking your head up and you're saying, this is what I'm for. I stand for something. And it's so important not to be afraid of being visible in that place, because now you've got two polar opposite things that happen at the same time. One, you have the people that are for you. They love you. They love your product. They love your service. And they want to continually be fed that. But you also have your critics. Yeah. And you're not going to have one without the other. And I see so many people, they stick their head up and it's like whack-a-mole. They get hit by that critic and down they go, and they don't want to do it again because it's painful. What do you say to those folks?
I love it, man. I love how you phrase it. I think it's so important, because I think that's where, though, the word you said, mediocrity, is that there's millions and millions of businesses out there that are eking along just fine. But why is business failure happen so much? I think because people are not willing to take a stand. And you find that those who take a stand, David, those who stand up and say, here's who we are, I don't have the numbers, they have more success. People are noticing you for good or for bad.
Yeah.
Nike, love them or hate them, I'm not being political here, they take stands. And other people and companies we know that take stands, they're noticed.
Right.
There's a risk, but it's important.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at, because you're right. Are you going to be remembered? Are you significant in your expression? Are you significant in your content? Are you significant in your entertainment? What are you significant in where somebody is going to remember you? And you see people play both sides of that card. I'm going to be remembered for something positive, or I'm going to do a little something a little risky and be remembered for that. But either way, they're remembered. And I had an interesting situation happen one time where I was at this event. Somebody else was speaking. It was a very positive event. The whole idea was about change and inspiration and moving people forward in life. And somebody came out and gave an extremely negative talk that was directed at one gender specifically and basically horrified the audience. However, that person was talked about more for the next month than any of the other people. And there were amazing people on that stage. And somebody said to me, I can't believe this person did this or whatever. And I said, something, here's what you really should learn from this. You're still talking about that person. And that was the idea to begin with. That person was remembered over anybody else. Now, granted, it might be negative. You're not in line with it. Maybe it didn't do anything positive. But the truth was that person was willing to do what they did in order to be remembered.
Right.
But I think that if a person takes their own uniqueness and they exemplify that, if they expand that out to be something that can be seen, that generally if they're doing something smart, like you said, then that becomes memorable for individuals, because everybody has this unique side of themselves. I wanted to ask you, like, with the people that you work with, because you've got a lot of reach, you see a lot of different things going out there. What is the thing that you see that it is a problem for most entrepreneurs today? Like, what are they battling the most that they really need to understand?
Yeah, I think in the marketing side, again, I want to underline that, David. I say it because it's a weak area of myself. So I've been trying to get more into the numbers of my business and leadership. So those are things that they need to know. But on the marketing side, two things. I was at a conference yesterday with the Small Business Administration. That's, I do these kind of events all the time as you speak to people as well. And I think that two things. A, Ramon, how do I build the team or get help to do the things I know I need to do to grow my business? Help and could be mindset, which you do, or otherwise. So how do I build the team? How do I get help to do this? Two, how do I find the time? I find that time management. My son, who's a budding entrepreneur, called me today, Dad, I don't even know how to manage my time. So I think that's two. And then three, I think many people are afraid. Right a few doors from here, David, there's a couple that has a health studio. They're afraid to break out from the pack and be different. So I think those are the three things that I'm seeing. Everybody wants to be the same and be safe. How do I get the time to do these things? And then three, I forgot what the third one was, but I know it was great what I just said. So those are the things that I'm seeing, David, that entrepreneurs need to know the most. Okay.
Do you find that that's difficult for them because they're afraid of judgment the most? Like, what if I fail? Is that what's behind it, you think?
I think it's part of it. A lady asked me yesterday, and this is a more tactical thing, but it's indicative of the principle. She said, I was talking about video. As you may know, David, it's one of my big things. I talk about using video to humanize and personalize your brands. She said, Ramon, what if you don't like how you look?
Really?
And first, I appreciate her asking it because obviously she had that issue. But I understand it. We're human, right? We all want to put some shaving cream, cologne, put our collar up. I get it. But so to your point, yes, people are afraid to be judged. And I find that people like yourself, which I'm assuming in myself, we just do it. We roll with it. It's okay.
Yeah.
But there's many people that, okay, everybody else has blue. Let me have blue. Everybody else does it this way. That's being like everybody else.
Okay. So let's bring this in here a little bit. If you could leave everybody with one successful mind tip,
sure,
what has served you the most?
I think what served me the most, well, two things. One thing, David, is I think that understand that I will make mistakes and I have to just get over it. This is the biggest thing. In launching things and doing new things that haven't worked, you don't want to be foolish about it and lose your house or lose your family. But David, that's the one, and I think you tell me because you're the doctor of this, I think that's the mindset thing, is that really I'm Ramon. I know I talk too fast. I know I can't spell very good. And I feel the emotion welling up. I know I'm not good at numbers. I'm thinking now of my high school and kids teasing me. That's what's going through me. As I'm talking to you, David, I can feel it. But thankfully to God, I own it and I'm saying that's how it is. Let's go. Let's roll with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, it's interesting because the human being can't learn without making mistakes. And I always use this metaphor that when we were little kids and we were learning how to walk, we had this urge, this desire to walk, and we kept pulling ourselves up to be able to do so. And we would fall down 1,000 times, but nobody ever said to us, "Oh, you're no good at walking. You're never going to walk." They encouraged us. But then at some point in our life, they started discouraging mistakes. And we would get the big red F on our paper, or we would be put aside in the corner from the rest of the kids in the class. So we literally started to learn, oh, mistakes aren't okay. I better get it right the first time. But then it paralyzes people and they literally can't move forward from it. So I absolutely agree with what you're saying. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, thank you, David. RamonRay.com, RamonRay, or smarthustle.com. Anybody who wants to find out more what I do and educate themselves.
Is there a first step with you that they could take that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think, listen, every Thursday at 2 p.m., I send out an inspirational email. I think it's inspirational. You may even be angry at me, but that's okay. So smarthustle.com, they can sign up for that right on the right side of the page. And thanks for asking. But smarthustle.com, sign up and hear more from Ramon.
That's great. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
You got it. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and like the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section and let's continue the conversation. Have a great day.